It's a lovely Tuesday afternoon. It's January 19th, and you're listening to another edition of the Five Houses of Slaughter. I'm your host, Marco Soriano, and with me are my co-hosts,
Brian Murphy and Blake Sawyer.
Today we will be discussing topics related to the Slaughterhouse Five. The first topic today we will be tackling is the Tralfamadorian's concept of time and death and how it compares to the human concept of time and death. We will be with you right after the short break. As I said before the break, today we'll be discussing the Tralfamadorian concept of time and death and how it relates to the human concept of time and death. Taking a direct quote from the book on page 46 for me, it says, "All moments, past, present, and future, always have existed, always will exist. The Tralfamadorians can look at all the different moments just like the way we look at a stretch of the Rocky Mountains, for instance." Basically, this quote means that all time for the Tralfamadorians is fixed, past, present, and future. That we can't do anything to change our moment in time. Us humans, we believe that our future is influenced by the actions we do in the present. This isn't the case for the Tralfamadorians. They believe that all time, no matter what, is fixed, and we can't really do anything about it, and we just live the way it is. They also have a very peculiar concept of death compared to us humans. Us humans typically mourn the death of a loved one at a funeral. We're always crying, but the Tralfamadorians don't think this way. Again, on page 46 for me, it states, "The most important thing I learned on Tralfamador was that when a person dies, he only appears to die. He is still very much alive in the past, so it's silly for people to cry at his funeral." So the Tralfamadorians pretty much don't mourn death. They believe that the person is still alive in the past. So kind of like how we might have pictures of someone or videos or just memories of someone, they believe that they're technically still alive for them. So they don't mourn death at all compared to us humans who always mourn the death of a loved one. Murph, what do you think about that?
You know what? I'm just gonna analyze the death aspect of that. The Tralfamadorians, when someone dies, the most frequent phrase in this entire novel is "so it goes," and they use this phrase to portray that there's no emotion or sorrow when one dies in Tralfamador. As Marco, as you said, the Tralfamadorians believe that the person only appears to die, and that it's ridiculous to cry at a funeral. They would rather just believe in that there is no sadness when someone dies. The memory of them lives on, and the actions from that dead one is and always will be there in the present. So the dead in Luxembourg, taken right from the book, the regimental chaplain's assistant had been killed in action, and this is on page 40. That is Billy Pilgrim's regimental chaplain. This news Billy responded to, of course, as every death. He says, "So it goes." This is just to delegitimize the death and just to not focus on the sorrow or the death. It's to focus on that there should be no emotion when one dies. Blake, what do you think?
I agree pretty strongly with you on the death, but I've got a lot to talk about the concept of time for the Tralfamadorians. Taken straight from the book on page 169 for me, it says that 300 million miles from Earth, bound for a time warp in which will get them to Tralfamador in hours rather than centuries. And this is when Billy's getting taken in the flying saucer to planet Tralfamador. And it's just amazing how to fly in a flying saucer through space in only hours, which is hours for them, but could seem like centuries for someone else, and that just relates on the topic of how time is relative throughout our entire galaxy, and it's just amazing. And to touch on what Marco said about how time is just the scene stretched out, like here it says again on page 169 for me, "All time is time. It does not change. It does not lend itself to warnings or explanations. It simply is," which means that, they know when the time's going to happen, and there's nothing they can do about it, and they don't care to do anything about it. They just let things happen like it says it simply is. And so they say to take it moment by moment, and that you'll just find all yourselves, as it says, we're bugs in amber. We're all trapped in time. And the Tralfamadorians, they see their time stretched out as what appears to us as a stretch of rocky mountains. They can see individually, second by second, millisecond by millisecond, of what time is going to happen and what event is going to happen in that time. So just to touch back on what both of them said, just the time and death of Tralfamadorians is amazing, how they view each thing and how different it is from humans today. And I mean, I don't know what else to add.
I can add something. When Billy is first picked up by the Tralfamadorians, he says, "Why me?" And the Tralfamadorians say, "Why you? Why us for that matter? Why anything?" And the Tralfamadorians on page 96 respond, "Because this moment simply is." The Tralfamadorians believe that moments are moments because nothing prior to that moment influences, nothing past is going to be influenced by it. The moment is the moment, and you have to live in the moment and not let anything prior, present, or future influence that moment, and you just have to live there.
Adding a little more to what both you guys said, the Tralfamadorians know exactly how they're going to die. For me, it's on page 174. "We know how the universe ends," says the guide. A Tralfamadorian test pilot presses the start button and the universe disappears. Now, typically, if you were going to know how you were going to die, you would try to do anything possible and prevent that moment, as us humans would instinctively would do. That's not the case for the Tralfamadorians here. The Tralfamadorian guide even states they know exactly how they're going to die, but they choose not to do anything about it because that moment in time is already fixed and happening, and they can't really do anything about that. Do you guys have anything else to add?
I think we touched it all.
All right, folks, the next topic we will be tackling is how war influences our veterans. Don't go too far. As I said before the break, our next topic is going to be how war impacts our veterans. I think that we can all agree that our veterans pay a high price and they often suffer from it. Blake is going to give us a few statistics behind the unemployment veterans face when they come back home.
All right, well, as everybody knows, veterans, when they come back from war, nothing's really right with them. And the ability for them to try to find a job is very difficult. And according to a Washington Post article that was written in November 11th, 2013, the title of it's "The Unemployment Rate for Recent Veterans is Incredibly High." And some statistics I pulled from there was that at that time, at November 11th, 2013, 10% of veterans were unemployed when they came back from the war. And the October that was previous to that year, there was only 6.9% of employment rates in veterans, which is just drastically high how it goes up. And the higher jobless rate for them is, higher jobless rate is more for vets than in non-vets. And reasons why vets are unemployed and like the unemployment rate is so high is because of disabilities that they face, lack of civilian work experience because of being in the war, also obstacles that the vets have to face when like making the transition into the work environment, such as taking tests or tax credits, etc. And it takes a giant toll on them, and it could lead to other major things in this life of them, and it's just very hard for them to find jobs when they are coming back from the war.
Adding on to a little what you said, I saw this tweet a while back that said that with all the school shootings going on, that we should hire unemployed veterans to protect our children in school. And I think that's a great idea because veterans would love nothing more than to have the responsibility of protecting a school and protecting kids. And I mean, they have the military background for that, and that would just be like a great opportunity for them if they're trying to find something to get back on their feet right back from coming back from war. I think it's a great idea overall. Murph?
And one of the most common, disabilities and experiences, bad experiences that the veterans have when they return from war is PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder. Billy clearly, in my opinion, has PTSD. He was just a young man in the war. He wasn't grown up yet. He wasn't not fully matured. And when he went to war, he was unprepared. He wasn't even really a soldier. He had no gun. He was never issued a helmet or combat boots. And this unpreparedness and the lack of experience that he had really messed with his mind and left him scarred. Following the war, Billy often finds himself weeping for no apparent reason, mentioned on page 77. This is a clear indication that Billy suffers from PTSD due to his inexperience and lack of preparation in the horrific war that he was in. And some statistics from the National Institute of Health reports that PTSD afflicts approximately 31% of Vietnam veterans, 10% Gulf War veterans, 11% Afghanistan veterans, and Shmoop.com reports that 25,000 World War II veterans, or at least 16% of World War II veterans, suffer from PTSD. And World War II was the war that Billy was in, so there's a great possibility that he does have PTSD. I also